October 2007. A seemingly ordinary day turned into a nightmare for the family of Stacy Ann Cales, a young mother of two whose vibrant spirit vanished without a trace. The whispers of her disappearance quickly grew into a media frenzy, exposing the dark undercurrents of her life and marriage. Stacy, known for her infectious smile and unwavering devotion to her children, was a woman with dreams for the future. But beneath the surface of her seemingly idyllic life, a web of secrets and complexities lurked. Her husband, Drew Peterson, a man with a past shrouded in controversy, became the focal point of suspicion. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that Stacy's disappearance was no ordinary missing persons case. The search for a loving mother transformed into a national scandal, revealing unsettling patterns of behavior and shattering the illusion of normalcy that had once defined Stacy's world. Stacy Peterson, originally known as Stacy Ann Cales, entered the world on January 20th, 1984, in Downers Grove, born to parents Christy and Anthony Cales. She had an older brother named Yelton and an older sister called Jessica, who unfortunately passed away in a house fire before Stacy came into the family. Following Stacy's arrival, her family grew with the addition of Cassandra, and they also welcomed another child named Lacey, who tragically succumbed to sudden infant death syndrome as an infant. Additionally, Christy Cales had another daughter named Christy Toutjus, who was born before her marriage to Anthony Cales. In their early years, the Cales children grew up in the shadow of their mother, Christy Cales, battling the grip of depression and alcoholism. According to Joseph Hosey's book, Fatal Vows, both Christy and her husband, Anthony Cales, struggled with alcohol abuse, leading to the neglect of their children. Christy faced numerous legal troubles throughout the late 1980s and 1990s, including arrests for DUI, shoplifting, domestic violence, and child neglect. By 1990, Anthony filed for divorce, and when Christy failed to appear in court, custody of the children was awarded to Anthony. Their daughter, Christy Toutjus, also known as Tina, was placed in foster care. Christy's presence in her children's lives was erratic, marked by disappearances and a lack of stability. In 1998, Christy vanished entirely, leaving no trace behind. Her children remain in the dark, unsure whether their mother is still alive or has passed away, adding another layer of heartbreak to their already tumultuous lives. The Cales family was a tapestry woven with threads of both love and turmoil. Yelton Cales, Stacy's father, was imprisoned in 2005, leaving a gaping hole in the family's stability. Stacy's mother, Tina, released from foster care at 18, found solace in marriage, but was tragically struck down by cancer in 2006, at the young age of 30. Stacy's life took a sharp turn at 16 when she met Drew Peterson, a Bolingbrook police officer. Born on January 5, 1954, Drew Peterson was a man of contrasts. He graduated from Willowbrook High School, enlisted in the United States Army, and eventually found his way to Virginia, where he served as a military police officer. In 1974, he married his high school sweetheart, Carol Brown. Their love story, however, was marked by infidelity. Drew's wandering eye led to a divorce in 1980, just as he was beginning his career with the Bolingbrook Police Department. Despite the tumultuous nature of his first marriage, Drew's career flourished. He joined the narcotics unit and was recognized for his dedication, earning the title of Police Officer of the Year in 1979. During his marriage to Carol, he welcomed two sons, Stephen and Eric, into the world. But the seeds of instability that had plagued his first marriage would continue to sow discord in his future relationships. Following his split from Carol, Drew Peterson wasted little time moving on, marrying Victoria Vicky Connolly in 1982. The pair even ventured into business together, opening a bar. During their marriage, Carol's daughter lived with them, but Drew's old habits of infidelity resurfaced, ultimately leading to their divorce in 1992. By then, Drew was already entangled in an affair with Kathleen Savio. Years later, Vicky and her daughter would come forward with troubling allegations, claiming that Drew had been both controlling and violent during their time together. Not long after his divorce from Vicky, Drew married Kathleen in 1992. Kathleen, born on June 13, 1963, seemed to represent a fresh start for Drew. Together, they had 2 sons, Thomas in 1993 and Christopher in 1994. However, Drew's pattern of betrayal continued. By 2001, his attention had shifted to a much younger woman, 16-year-old Stacy Cales. Unbeknownst to Kathleen, Drew was sneaking Stacy into their home for secret encounters in the basement. When Kathleen discovered the affair in 2002, it was the final straw. She threw Drew out of the house and filed for divorce, setting the stage for one of the most infamous chapters in his life. Drew Peterson wasted no time moving forward after Kathleen kicked him out, purchasing a house just down the street and moving in with his young girlfriend, Stacy. From 2002 to 2004, the neighborhood was no stranger to turmoil, as domestic disturbance calls frequently stemmed from the tension between Kathleen, Drew, and Stacy. The couple's volatile divorce became a battleground, marked by accusations of physical abuse and disputes over custody and visitation for their 2 sons. In 2003, Drew and Kathleen opted for a bifurcated divorce, a legal arrangement allowing them to finalize the dissolution of their marriage while continuing to hash out disputes over marital assets. Drew pushed for this arrangement, eager to tie the knot with Stacy, who was just 19 years old and already pregnant with his child. The divorce proceedings were anything but smooth, underscoring the chaotic end to their tumultuous relationship. On March 1st, 2004, Drew Peterson arrived at Kathleen Savio's home after she failed to answer his calls. He had their sons with him, ready to return them to their mother, but when Kathleen didn't respond, he enlisted a neighbor to check inside the house while he stayed outside, claiming she wouldn't want him entering uninvited. Moments later, the neighbor's scream shattered the quiet, prompting Drew to rush inside. Upstairs in the bathroom, Kathleen was found dead. The investigation into her death was swift, but shallow. Despite the bathtub being dry, authorities concluded that Kathleen had accidentally drowned. Drew and his young wife, Stacy, were both questioned. Stacy provided an alibi, stating Drew had been home with her and the kids all night. Officers familiar with Drew saw no reason to suspect him. A coroner's inquest jury reviewed the circumstances and declared Kathleen's death an accident. Yet, her family was unwavering in their belief that Drew had murdered her. Adding to their suspicions, a handwritten will surfaced, shockingly granting control of Kathleen's estate to Drew's uncle, further complicating an already grim and suspicious situation. In 2005, Stacy and Drew celebrated the arrival of their second child, a baby girl named Lacey, honoring Stacy's late sister. After Lacey's birth, Stacy underwent several cosmetic procedures, including a tummy tuck, breast augmentation, and braces. While Drew claimed he was simply indulging his wife's wishes and pampering her, others suggested these changes were made under his influence. Tragedy struck the following year when Stacy's sister Tina lost her battle with cancer in 2006. Overcome with grief, Stacy struggled to cope with the loss, and cracks began to appear in her marriage, signaling deeper issues beneath the surface. Stacy was known to everyone as a devoted mother who poured her heart into raising her children, her 2 biological kids, and the 2 she lovingly adopted after Kathleen's death. However, in the months leading up to her disappearance, cracks in her marriage became evident. Stacy confided in her sister and a close neighbor about her growing unhappiness, expressing her desire to divorce Drew. She described him as increasingly possessive, controlling, and abusive. One unsettling incident highlighted Drew's controlling nature. When Stacy went to lunch with a male friend, Drew showed up in his police uniform and interrogated the man, leveraging his position as an officer to intimidate. Desperate for a sense of freedom, Stacy had even begun exchanging flirty messages with a high school acquaintance. Yet despite her unhappiness, her loved ones were adamant about one thing: Stacy would never abandon her children, leaving them in Drew's care. On October 29, 2007, Stacy Peterson's sister reported her missing, sparking a case that quickly gained national attention. Drew Peterson, her husband, insisted Stacy had voluntarily left him for another man, claiming he found her car abandoned at a local airport and returned it home. Drew showed little concern, stating he was upset but didn't believe Stacy was in any real danger. He even drew comparisons to her mother's disappearance, suggesting Stacy had simply abandoned her children in the same way. Drew's casual demeanor infuriated Stacy's family and friends, who were convinced something more sinister had happened. A massive police search ensued, but Stacy was nowhere to be found. Investigators traced her last phone ping to a location near the man she had been texting, but he denied a romantic relationship and had a solid alibi. As media outlets picked up the story, an explosive twist emerged. Drew's third wife, Kathleen Savio, had died years earlier under mysterious circumstances. The case spiraled into global headlines, and all eyes turned toward Drew as the search for Stacy intensified. Drew Peterson swiftly became the prime suspect in Stacy Peterson's disappearance, and his behavior did little to help his case. His detached and flippant attitude raised red flags, particularly during a Today Show interview where he dismissively claimed, "I'm not trying to be funny, but Stacy would ask me for a divorce regularly, and it was based on her menstrual cycle." His frequent press appearances only highlighted his arrogance and narcissism, making him a polarizing and unlikable figure in the public eye. By January 2008, Drew's unsettling charm had taken an even more bizarre turn when he became a regular guest on a local radio show. The show announced a distasteful Win a Date with Drew contest, further alienating the public and sparking widespread outrage. Facing heavy backlash, the contest was swiftly cancelled, leaving Drew's reputation even further tarnished. After 27 years of service, Drew Peterson resigned from the police department on November 12, 2007. He began collecting a sizable pension while focusing on raising his 4 young children, though his 2 eldest had already reached adulthood. As the media frenzy surrounding Stacy Peterson's disappearance intensified, attention was refocused on Kathleen Savio's suspicious death. State's Attorney James Glasgow reopened the investigation, leading to the exhumation of Kathleen's body and a second autopsy. The results were damning. Blunt force trauma was discovered, and her death was ruled a homicide. In May 2008, Drew made headlines once again when he turned himself in on unrelated weapons charges. Though he was released on bail and the charges were eventually dropped, he continued to attract media attention. Throughout the ordeal, his behavior remained chillingly indifferent, even stating, "Why would I look for someone I don't believe is missing?" Despite his growing notoriety, Drew made headlines again in December 2008 when he announced his engagement to a 23-year-old woman. However, just months later she left him, adding another chapter to his increasingly infamous story. On May 7, 2009, Drew Peterson was indicted for the murder of his ex-wife, Kathleen Savio. The case against him was based on several key pieces of evidence, including a history of domestic violence between the two, the bombshell findings from the second autopsy, and a clear motive. Drew stood to gain financially from Kathleen's death, just as their finances were about to be divided. While there was no direct physical evidence linking Drew to the crime, a shocking revelation soon surfaced. Drew's stepbrother came forward with a startling account. He claimed that on the night before Stacy Peterson vanished, Drew took him to lunch and admitted that Stacy wanted a divorce, adding that he had a problem to resolve. He then allegedly handed his stepbrother his phone, instructing him not to answer it. A few minutes later, the phone rang with Stacy's name on the caller ID. Despite the call, the stepbrother, an alcoholic with a criminal past, followed Drew's instructions and left the call unanswered. This phone call was later revealed to be the last one made from Stacy's phone, shortly before Drew returned. This piece of the puzzle would prove to be crucial in the investigation. Later that evening, Drew's stepbrother claimed Drew called him, asking for help moving something. He said he went to Drew and Stacy's bedroom, where he found a large blue barrel. The stepbrother said that he and Drew carried the barrel, which was warm to the touch, to Drew's vehicle. After that, Drew left, and the stepbrother, realizing the gravity of what he may have just helped do, began drinking heavily and using drugs. 2 days after Stacy's disappearance, he was hospitalized after attempting suicide. Drew, however, dismissed his brother's account, labeling him a drug-addicted liar and denying the claims. Then, another witness came forward with startling information. Stacy's pastor revealed that just weeks before her disappearance, Stacy had confessed to him that she had lied to police in 2004. Stacy had reportedly told the pastor that on the night of Kathleen's death, Drew had left the house and returned later wearing bloody clothes, which he immediately washed. The pastor claimed that Stacy believed Drew had murdered Kathleen Savio and that she had unknowingly helped him cover it up. This new revelation added another layer to the mounting suspicion surrounding Drew Peterson's involvement in both his ex-wife's death and Stacy's disappearance. Authorities faced a legal hurdle when it came to using Stacy's statements to the pastor, as they were considered hearsay and violated Drew's rights, given that Stacy could no longer testify. However, a groundbreaking Illinois law was passed specifically for this case, which allowed hearsay evidence to be admitted under certain conditions. This new law enabled the pastor to testify, along with several of Kathleen's family members, who revealed that Kathleen had feared for her life and believed that Drew would eventually kill her. The case took another dramatic turn when a witness came forward, claiming that Drew Peterson had once offered him $25,000 to kill Kathleen Savio, an offer the witness ultimately turned down. Further shocking testimony came from Kathleen's divorce attorney, who revealed that Stacy had contacted him shortly before her disappearance, asking if she could receive a larger financial settlement if she shared information with authorities about how Drew had killed Kathleen. These explosive revelations painted an increasingly damning picture of Drew Peterson and his involvement in both his ex-wife's death and his current wife's disappearance. On September 6, 2012, Drew Peterson was convicted of the first-degree murder of his ex-wife, Kathleen Savio, and sentenced to 38 years in prison. Despite this conviction, authorities still suspected him of being responsible for the disappearance of his current wife, Stacy Peterson, but they hesitated to charge him without her body. However, Drew's troubles only deepened in 2015. While incarcerated at Menard Correctional Center, he was caught attempting to orchestrate a murder-for-hire plot targeting Will County State's Attorney James Glasgow. Thanks to an undercover inmate wearing a wire, investigators were able to capture Drew's incriminating conversations. As a result, Drew was convicted of attempting to have the prosecutor killed and sentenced to an additional 40 years in prison, further compounding his lengthy sentence. Stacy Peterson's whereabouts remain unknown, and her case continues to haunt those who loved her. In the fall of 2021, Cassandra Cales, Stacy's sister, along with the FBI, conducted a search of a canal near Lockport, Illinois, hoping to uncover new evidence. Sadly, no trace of Stacy was found. Cassandra, undeterred, vowed never to give up the search, saying, "I've basically devoted my life to searching. I'm not going to stop." Meanwhile, Drew Peterson, who continues to maintain his innocence, filed multiple appeals, with an expected court hearing in February 2022 regarding his conviction for the murder of Kathleen Savio. His younger children from his marriage to Kathleen and Stacy are now being raised by Drew's son, Stephen. In November 2021, Drew gave his first media interview in years, speaking to Dateline. In it, he insisted he was a devoted husband and still proclaimed his innocence. When asked about his younger children growing up without their mothers, Drew coldly remarked that his son Stephen was raising them just fine, and that maybe having a mother isn't all it's cracked up to be. The chilling mystery of Stacy Ann Cales' disappearance continues to grip our hearts and minds. A vibrant young mother, brimming with life and dreams, vanished without a whisper, leaving behind a gaping hole in the lives of her loved ones. Years have passed, investigations have stalled, and whispers of suspicion swirl around her husband, Drew Peterson. Yet Stacy's fate remains shrouded in darkness. Her family, unwavering in their pursuit of truth, refuses to let her memory fade, clinging to the hope of one day finding answers. Stacy's story, however, transcends the tragedy of her disappearance. It serves as a stark reminder of the insidious nature of domestic violence, the chilling grip of control, and the devastating consequences of manipulation. Her case has ignited a firestorm of conversation, urging us to confront the societal failings that allow victims to feel trapped and unheard. While Stacy's life was cruelly cut short, her legacy lives on in the hearts of those who loved her, and in the relentless fight for justice that continues to this day. May her story serve as a beacon, illuminating the path toward protecting the vulnerable and ensuring that those who have been silenced find their voices. If you found this video compelling, leave a like and your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to subscribe and watch our other videos.